Good evening, everyone, and you're very welcome to the IAOP's In Conversation With webinar this evening. And we're delighted to have colleagues from the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine joining us this evening to talk about the National Veterinary Prescription System, the NVPS, and how to register for and dispense using the system. So before we get into the content of the webinar proper, I'm just going to run through some domestics. So this webinar will be recorded. Microphones will be muted. So if I could ask you please to keep everyone could please keep their microphones on mute. You can have your videos on and off as you wish, whatever your preference is. And if you're experiencing any problems with connectivity, if you'd like to turn off your video and then turn it on again, that can sometimes help. If you're having any difficulty hearing any of our speakers tonight, just to ensure that your speaker is not muted or turned down on your computer or device. And ultimately, the old reliable of try logging off and on again if you're having continuing problems. As always, please use the chat function for your questions or comments. Delighted to receive questions for our colleagues tonight. And we may use some anonymized information from the webinar. My colleague now, Grace, is going to pop the post-webinar survey into the chat box. And we'd really appreciate if you could take the time after the webinar to complete the post-webinar survey. It's very helpful for us in terms of planning future webinars and also getting your feedback. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our three speakers for this evening. So we have Darran Smyth, Executive Officer from the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine. Rebecca Fitzpatrick, a superintending veterinary inspector, and Noreen Galvin, a veterinary inspector. So I'm delighted to hand over to our first speaker tonight, who is going to start off the presentation. So Rebecca, if I could hand over to you, please.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. Just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to come here to talk about the NVPS today. So I will just try and share these slides. So just to give a brief agenda, so I'll just briefly touch on the legislation behind the NVPS, just cover what the NVPS actually is. And I'm going to pass on to my colleague then, Darran, who's going to speak in relation to how to register to use the NVPS as a dispenser. And then Noreen will run through the process of actually dispensing a medicine. Just a couple of things as well to note, just in relation to the NVPS, there are two ways to use the system. So one is by using the department's free webinar or the free application. Or the second way then is through your software provider, if that software provider is integrating with the NVPS. So just to be aware when we're demoing the system today as well, it's just we'll be using the web application, so it may look slightly different to what you see if you're using software. So just in relation to the legislation underpinning the NVPS, it comes initially from the EU regulations. We had EU Regulation 2019-6, which is the Veterinary Medicinal Products Regulation, and 2019-4, which is in relation to medicated feed. Nationally, these were implemented by SI 36/2022. In 2023, then, we had the Veterinary Medicinal Products, Medicated Feed and Fertilisers Regulation Act, which covered the national provisions. So things in relation to labelling and things like that as well are covered under this act. It also covered then the update of medicines legislation. It was the first time the NVPS was introduced, and then it also gave the Minister powers then to make regulations. So EU 2019-6, the Medicinal Products Regulation, and the Medicated Feed, EU 2019-4, they both came into force in January 2022. And one of the main areas that they were focusing on is on, I suppose, trying to reduce AMR, the levels of AMR. So it places legislative emphasis on prudent use of antimicrobials. It placed restrictions around prophylactic and metaphylactic use, so the preventative and group use of antimicrobials in animals. And it restricted then the use in animals of antimicrobials that are of critical importance in humans. So there are categories of antimicrobials that are not allowed to be used in animals. Following on then, last year we had further national legislation. So in September we had SI 462 of 2024, the Medicinal Products Regulation, and then we had the SI 524 to 2024. So that was the commencement order for the NVPS. SI 462, so that provided nationally for further provisions. So it included record keeping for vets, for owners of animals, when a comparable product can be dispensed in relation to antiparasitics. It covered other rules then in relation to the prescribing of antiparasitic medicinal products, including the proper assessment protocol. And it also then covered provided for the NVPS, so the National Veterinary Prescription System. And then said in October, then we had 542 of 2024. So that is the commencement order for Section 7 of the Veterinary Act, the National Database, which is the NVPS. So what it stated then was that as of the 13th of January 2025, the NVPS would be mandatory for food-producing animal species. So I suppose what is the National Veterinary Prescription System? It's an electronic system for the creation and dispensing of veterinary medicinal products and medicated feed prescriptions. So all prescriptions should be issued and dispensed using this NVPS system for all food-producing species, including horses. So it's a huge change to the way vets are prescribing. One of the main reasons that it came into force was it assists us with our compliance with all member state data submission commitment. So Article 57 of Regulation EU 2019/6 states that we have to supply antimicrobial usage for food-producing animals. So the first report was issued last year, so we were able to submit for poultry and pigs. However, we still have no cattle data, and we're the same then for our returns this year for 2024. So going forward from next year, we will be able to supply this data. So just to run through briefly how the NVPS works from prescribing right through to dispensing is initially then the vet will obviously clinically examine the animal or do a proper assessment protocol. The vet then will record a script on the NVPS or by using their third-party software provider. The NVPS can be used on a mobile phone, a desktop, an iPad. You can download it as an app like you would as about any other app you'd have on your smartphone. And once the vet then submits that prescription, it's saved to the third-party database and also then to the department's NVPS centralized database. So what happens then from the owner or the farmer end is once the vet submits that prescription, and if it's for a product that hasn't been currently dispensed, the farmer then receives a 16-digit ID, prescription ID code. So just in that little box in section 4 there, you can just see there's a 16-digit code. The farmer will receive an overall prescription ID, and there'll also be a line item ID then per product. So it just allows farmers to collect their or owners to collect their prescriptions in different places if needs be. So I suppose you as a pharmacy, what you'll get then is you'll have an owner or a keeper coming in and they'll give you the 16-digit code. Again, similar to the vets, you can use this either through the department's web application or by using your third-party software provider. And when you can register for this. So when you open up that system, you enter your 16-digit code and the prescription then will appear. So you'll be able to see the owner's details, the address, the prescribing vet's details, the product to be dispensed, the quantity and dosage regime. So you'll be able to see the full prescription and you'll be able to enter then the quantity that you're going to dispense. Once you've submitted then that, once you've dispensed and submitted that to the NVPS, the application then will work on real time and the farmer then will get an email of his dispensed prescription sent through to him. So everything works very quickly and the farmer then will have those details then for their own records. So I'm going to pass you through then to Darran, who will speak then in terms of how to register then to use this system.
Hi everyone, thank you for attending, giving us this opportunity to go through the NVPS. Okay, so how do you access the NVPS? The NVPS can be accessed through our free app, as Rebecca outlined already, or through an integrated solution, an API provided by some software companies. So this is I'm going to give you a brief overview of the web app. Noreen will give a more detailed demonstration of it and the process of how to register. So this is the NVPS web app for dispensers. It's a free web app available to register dispensers and allows you to select a role, either a locum or a dispenser, search by prescription ID, search by line item ID, dispense veterinary medicinal products, view prescriptions dispensed by you or anyone affiliated to your business, and then download prescriptions dispensed by you or your business. So if you want to dispense a veterinary medical product, you click dispense, enter the prescription or line item ID, you confirm that the correct prescription or line item is displayed, select the product to be dispensed, and then dispense products. It's all done in real time. The NVPS web app allows you to dispense partially or fully dispense a product. Again, Noreen is going to give you a full view of this as you see it, but this just gives you an outline of possibilities. It also has the option of the dispense history. So you can see what has been dispensed by your business, either yourself or anyone else. This includes locums that may have been working for you. There are restrictions that apply to locums for viewing the dispense history. Just so you're aware of that. If you're requested by an animal keeper, the NVPS web app allows you to view, download, and print prescriptions dispensed by you or anyone affiliated with your business. So someone may come into you after the fact and ask for a copy of the prescription that you dispensed. It includes the prescription dispensed by locums, but you'll only be able to view the dispense actions of your own business. So if part of the prescription was dispensed elsewhere, you won't see that. You're only able to see the actions that you've performed in your business. So it keeps everything confidential. The reason for that is that keepers have the option to dispense just the line item or the full prescription as they choose themselves. And so that ensures their confidentiality that no one else can see where they've been dispensed if they choose that. So registering for the NVPS web app. The NVPS web app is only available through the Ag Food portal. So I'm aware that some of you may not be aware of what that is. It's a portal for department applications. So what you need to do is you need to initially register for an Ag Food account or AGR number. We've included the registration forms with this. So for each individual, they need to complete the NVPS user access request form. So that's for every individual that will be dispensing in the premises. And you may also need to complete the company registration form if your company hasn't already registered. So this would apply for the first time. Forms can be emailed or posted to the NVPS and take 3 to 10 business days to process. It's important to remember that the NVPS currently only applies to food producing animals. So if you're not dispensing for these categories now, or you don't intend to dispense in the immediate future, you don't need to register now. It's only if you're going to dispense for food producing animals. The API registration is different. Some software packages have developed integration with the NVPS to allow their clients to dispense via existing software. You will need to contact your software provider directly to confirm this and the process, because the process for each provider is slightly different. Some will ask you to register with us directly and enter a code that we'll provide you into the software. Others will register on your behalf and edit the codes in the background. So it's important that you contact them to find out exactly how they're going to do it. It's also important to remember that your web app login details cannot be used on practice software. They're two different systems, 2 different registration systems. So if you're using practice software or software in your business, you need to contact your provider first. If you're only occasionally dispensing, it would make sense for you to have the web app, because it's free, it's quick, it's very easy to use. If you're dispensing on a regular basis, it'll probably make more sense for you to contact your provider, because you will need to enter the information twice, once on the web app and once in your own software, just to keep your own records up to date. So that is the registration process. If anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. These are our contact details. We have a helpline that's available 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. That it's 01 505 8832. The email is all year round. There's a team of us here there to monitor it. nvps@agriculture.gov.ie. The guides and forms are on the gov.ie NVPS webpage. We're going to circulate these slides afterwards, so that link will be there, and the registration forms will also be included. We're also going to include a training guide to the dispensing, the web app for dispensing. So thank you very much, and I will hand over to Noreen.
Great, thank you. Just my screen. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to run through the app.
the app, this is the testing environment of the app. So I'm going to run through it and show you what it would look like on the web app. So here is your landing page. Darren mentioned there, when you register to use the web app, you'll be given an AGR number and then a password, which you will enter in the web app. Okay. Okay, so this is the landing page of an NVPS dispenser. Okay, regardless of whether you are a locum dispenser or a NVPS pharmacist, it's the same landing page for dispensers in retail licensed merchants as well. So you have two options here. You have to dispense in the live environment or to check your dispense history. So if we go into the dispense in the live environment, okay, so it's looking immediately, it looks for the prescription ID or the line item ID. Now, as my colleagues mentioned, when a vet writes a prescription using the NVPS, which most vets are doing now because it's been mandatory since January, so the majority are using using it through their software packages. Some people are using it on the web app, but either which way, if they are writing a prescription for an owner keeper to be dispensed in another premises, a third party premises, the farmer will get a prescription ID. Now, there is a couple of ways for the farmer to get a prescription ID. They'll either get it directly to their phone on a text message. We have recently set up that they'll also get the prescription ID on their email, or as we have been told, there is a cohort of the farming community that may have neither or are not tech savvy, in which case the vet will either have just written the 16-digit code out for them or printed it off for them. So hopefully, and I'm going to use the luxury of copy and pasting here rather than having to write it down and fill it in manually. But if they do receive it by email, perhaps they could email it to you so you could copy and paste. Okay. So while it's trying to retrieve itself, there we go. So we put in, you'll have on the information that the farmer gets, it is not a prescription. There is not enough information on that for it to be a prescription per se. It is just a means of conveying the prescription ID number from the farmer to the dispenser. So you can only really retrieve the true details of the prescription by putting in your prescription ID into the NVPS. And while this is the web app, we are assuming that these steps will be mirrored quite closely on any software that you would be using. So you've entered the details, and initially you want to confirm with the owner keeper who's with you that that it's for, let's say, horses. This is your EPRN numbers, your herd number, or equine premises registration number in this case, because let's say it's for horses, keeper name. And once you've that confirmed, you click in. So in this case, I'm going to use a human medicine in this case. So let's say this is a foal, this is zithromycin. So this is the product that has to be dispensed, and we just collect. There's only one item on this. There can be 2 line items, 3 line items, 4 line items on a prescription, but we just have one on this one. So next. Okay, so here we go. And we're just going to work through. The details are here, the dosage. So route of administration, oral, the dosage regime, 6 tablets orally once a day for 10 days. And the vet has written in dissolved tablets in syringe with a small amount of water. The withdrawal period, again, so all for equines are classed as food producing animals. So there is a withdrawal period on the veterinary medicinal products and even the human products, but it will be up to the vet to put that into the prescription before you get access to it. Okay. And then the quantity described 60. So you can choose to dispense the whole 60, or as my colleagues were mentioning earlier, if you dispense 30, you can dispense 30, and then what will happen is that the prescription is termed partially dispensed, and the other 30 can be dispensed, well, they can be dispensed in another pharmacist on another day, or they can be dispensed by you again on another day. But for ease, let's say we're going to dispense the entire 60. Okay. I don't have a batch number in front of me now, but you're going to just enter a batch number. Okay. And also, again, as I say, this is a test environment now. So this blue box is going to change because it's a bit misleading. But obviously, a label is required for all prescription-only medicines in the veterinary world as well. And the information that is required on that is, the prescriber, the dispenser, the herd owner, something to identify the animal, and the dosage regime and the withdrawal period. And also necessary for NVPS prescriptions is the last 4 digits or the last 4 characters of the prescription ID or the line item ID, something that can link that veterinary medicinal product that's sitting on the owner farmer's shelf at home to the prescription number. So confirm. Okay, so again, as we say to everyone, once we complete dispensing, it cannot be undispensed. So just make sure that you have the meds in stock before you complete the dispensing. Otherwise, it's quite complicated to get the prescription cancelled and reissued. So we'll complete dispensing. Now, one thing that we are developing in this is we are developing if you don't have the Clonmel brand in, that you'll be able to dispense a generic. So I will show you that at the end. I will show you a slide of the mock-up of the screens that are in development at the minute to allow you to dispense a generic where you are allowed. And Zithromax would be one of the interchangeable ones that you could do. So I will show you that at the end. So in this scenario, we're going to complete the dispensing. And then the dispensing is complete. It's completely dispensed. And I won't do it here now, but if you were to go back and put that 16-digit code into the prescription screen, it would say completely dispensed and you would not be able to act on it. Okay. And then we'll just, I was going to open that, but it's not, I'll be able to show you one. I'll be able to show you a dispensed, I'll be able to show you a dispensed PDF shortly. So, right, we're going to go back to the home page again. Okay, and we'll just do one other one. Let's say let's say this one. So this is an antiparasitic. Okay, so veterinary medicine and antiparasitic. We're going to pick tramadol for this one. Okay, I'm going to go back in and we're going to dispense. And the reason why I want to pick this one is this is what we call a comparable. So we don't have in the veterinary industry, we don't have the luxury kind of interchangeable meds, except for in the antiparasitics, in line with the new legislation, as Rebecca outlined. We have developed comparable listings for antiparasitic medicines. And again, I'll show you at the end exactly what they're based on. We'll just go through the dispensing protocol here. So here we can see this is for cattle herd number, the prescribing vet's name, and the owner keeper name, the herd keeper's name. Again, everything you see here is fictitious. So here we have a prescription for tramadol, oral drench, and it's been prescribed for 2 groups of animals. Group ID, one is 45 yearling bullocks. The next one is, let's say, 20 heifers. So select. Next. Okay. So here we see the details. Oral, the dosing regime. Now for the antiparasitics, the dosing regime will default to the SPC, to what is in the SPC. And that's just for this category of animals, for this category of medicines, so the antiparasitics. Again, we have the withdrawal period. milk. So because we're in cattle territory now, we're talking about milk and meat, whereas in horses it was just meat. Degree days is only applicable to fin fish, so it's not applicable to obviously cattle or horses. So here we go. So we've been prescribed 2.5 litres of tramadol. Now, you don't have tramadol on the shelf, but we are going to look at what's available in the comparable listing for this medicine. So we have Albex, which is 10%, so this is the equivalent strength. And then there's Albex 25 mg per ml and tramadol 2.5% oral drench. So if we were to click the Albex 25, just what I want to show you here is because it's only a quarter of the strength, the volume that is dispensable automatically increases to meet the demands of the lower strength medicine that's being dispensed. Okay, but for the ease, we're going to say that we have Albex on the shelf. Okay, now, again, this is a test environment, and in development, the withdrawal periods for the comparables will pre-populate. Okay, but for now it's 14 days and it's 60 hours. Okay. But we always do remind the dispensers just to, well, we remind vets initially that they must double check the withdrawal periods that are pre-populated. But when it's coming to the comparables, issuing a comparable medicine, it's important that the dispenser brings to the attention of the owner keeper any changes that might be in that product or in that SPC with regard to withdrawal or with regard to the dosage regime, especially if you're dispensing a lower strength veterinary medicinal product. So obviously the dosage would change. And that is a conversation for you to have with the owner keeper. Make sure that they are happy, that you have their consent to dispense this comparable, and that you have, I suppose, discussed with them any changes in the withdrawal or any changes in the dosage regime as per the SPC or the package leaflets. Okay. So we're going to tick this because, again, this text will slightly change, but for the most part, it's what we discussed there about just, mentioning any differences in the dosage or the withdrawal. So we're going to dispense 2.5 litres. We're going to put in a batch number and we're going to confirm. Okay. And complete dispensing. Okay. Okay, and then we can download a dispensed PDF. Okay, and now I'm just going to drag this over, sorry, so that we can see it. Okay, so this is a dispensed PDF that the farmer will receive by email. Now, if the farmer has an email address, again, if he receives the original prescription ID details via email, that's great. That means that there's an email address on the NVPS system, and then this PDF will go directly to his email address. It's important to point out, I suppose, that he or she will need this for their medicinal record keeping at home on the farm, but it is not in itself enough for a record keep, because you can see that the group identification is only identified by 40 bullocks or 25 heifers. There's no tag numbers, no individual IDs, etc. on it. So it is important that they keep it for their records, but it is not in itself an entire medical record for that action or for that medicine to be on the farm. The other thing to say is if they don't have access to an email address, you will have to print this out for them. You will have to print this out for them if they don't have another way of getting it. And look, you'll know your clients best, especially at the community level. You'll know which farmers have access or which don't. So that is what the dispense PDF will look like. Now, I promised that I would go through just the comparables. So okay, so that's what we did. So this here, sorry, now this is the mock-up of the screen. So I am dispensing a generic for this human medicine. Okay, so if you tick this, you will then be able to manually put in the generic medicine that you're using instead of the human medicine the actual human medicine that was prescribed. Again, if there's any change in the strength of it or any change that you need to bring to the attention of the client, then you would obviously have to do that before you dispense it. So what we do is we have the NVPS drug database. So we hold that, let's say, and it is 99% or 95% veterinary medicinal products as we get that are licensed in Ireland on the HPRA website, that are licensed centrally on the EMA, on the European website. And then we also have human meds on our database, but we don't do a mass ingestion from HPRA or any other source because we are only accessing, it's mainly in the equine industry that we're only accessing a handful of human meds. So we're building the human med database based on demand from prescribing vets. So it will come into you, it'll have been on the medicine that will come into you to be dispensed will have been on the NVPS database. But in fact, if you are dispensing a generic, regardless of whether it's on the database or not, you can enter it. It doesn't need to be on our database, so you can work away doing that. And then I just wanted to touch base on the comparable products. As we said, we don't have the luxury of interchangeables, let's say, in the veterinary environment, but with the antiparasitics that are being upregulated on the 1st of September to prescription-only medicines, we have developed a comparable products listing. And you saw some of the example there for the albendazoles, some of the oral albendazoles. So our comparable products are based on, so they must have the same active substance, form, route of administration, indicated for the same species, and they must have they must be hitting the same, target parasites on the SPCs. So that's how we compiled the comparables. So some of them, like the injectable ivermectins, there's plenty there's plenty to choose from, lots of different brand names. Some of them, like the Deltanil or some of the spot-ons, they are, most of them, they might be unique. They may not have a comparable because they have such different indications. But that's how our comparable listing was done. So that is me for now. But I'm happy to answer any questions or open up the screen again should you need it. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Noreen, and thank you to Rebecca. Fantastic to have the legislation and the regulations context, and to Darran for the development of a fantastic system, and to Noreen for giving us a walkthrough. I think it's always so valuable to see it in practice. So what I might do, I have a few questions of my own, but I'd be delighted to first of all start through the Q&A box. It's fantastic to see a few questions coming in. So I think Darran, you've covered this one off, but I think if I might just address it to you, if that's okay. So is this system necessary for small animal prescriptions?
No, not at this point in time. It will be down the line. It will be extended to small animals, but at this point in time, it is only for food producing animals. So if you're not dispensing for those animals, you don't need to register. You can contact us and let us know that you are dispensing to small animals and you wish to be kept informed, but there's no need for you to register.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And we will have your contact details in terms of the helpline and the email on our website available from tomorrow as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you. That's great. The next question, do you need a separate ag food account as a pharmacist if you have one already as a farmer?
You do. So there's they access it in two slightly different ways, and they're under two different categories within our system. So you would need to have a separate ag food account for your pharmacy as to if you've already got one as a farmer.
Brilliant. Super. Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you, Darran. I think, Noreen, if I might ask you to take this one, what do you mean by a withdrawal period that relates to when you're talking about the example?
So the withdrawal period is so in food producing animals, we always talk about residues of medicine and safe limits for human consumption. So the withdrawal period is that time frame after which the last dose of medicine has been given, that so once you've done the withdrawal period, it is then deemed safe for either for a human to consume the milk from that animal, or for that animal to go to slaughter. So it's the time that is necessary for that drug to leave the system of the animal, so that it is at a safe residue limit for human consumption. So yeah, unfortunately, we're into withdrawal periods when you're into the veterinary medicine.
Super, thank you very much. That's great. And I know you talked about third-party software providers and APIs, so I'll come back to that in a moment, but I just have a great question here, another great question. So will this app allow me to print a label to place on the product, or do I need to enter it through the pharmacy dispensing software to get a label? A great question after the walkthrough of the app itself. I'm not sure who'd like to take that.
Yeah.
I can take that. At the minute, the web app doesn't integrate with your printer. Okay, so you would likely have to have, well, now Darren can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is it doesn't, it certainly doesn't on the veterinary side. So you would have to use your own software or an external label printer for that. Sorry,
Okay.
Darren, am I correct in that?
Yeah, no, you are correct, Noreen. The NVPS web app is just for dispensing and just for prescribing. The decision was made not to go into the labeling part of it. The information is there on the dispense PDF. But if you are using software in your pharmacy to dispense, the chances are that there might be an API integration, and that will be built into the integration, that it would use all the features of your existing software. So
And
if you don't,
sorry,
on, yeah.
I was just going to say, if somebody had a query on that, on the kind of the practiced operational aspects, is that a question that's directed to their software provider, or is that something they should come to you first as a first pass on it, or how should pharmacists dealing with that in practice deal with those type of questions?
Yeah, if you're using practice software, you're best contacting your own software provider, because they're far more familiar with their software than we are. There is an awful lot of software out there, and unfortunately, we just can't keep abreast of everything.
Sure.
And we're being made aware of, companies that may have only 5 or 6 people that they're developing for. So it's very hard for us to know about those. So you're always best contacting your software provider first. And if they're having issues, you can give them our email address, and we'll help them with technical support.
Super. Fantastic. Yeah, great to know the pathway there. Great. So the questions are flying in. I'll take another one here. So what are the time limits on a prescription? For example, if you had a prescription for 10 litres of ivermectin Poron and you dispensed 5 litres, what is the time on what is time on dispensing limit for the second 5 litres?
So for all products, I suppose for all antimicrobials, the validity period is 5 days. For all other products, then it's 6 months.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. And then the next question is thank you, Rebecca, on the uptake of the system. So that this commenter query has come in to say that less than 0.01% of vet prescriptions to date have been on the system. And just wondering what level of engagement maybe. I don't know if you can comment on that here tonight, or is it a case of this is just very new and it's great to see the engagement and it's growing, or I don't know if we'd like to take that one.
Yeah, I suppose in relation to the 0.01%, that was in relation to the number of products dispensed outside of a veterinary clinic. So to date, we have over 60% of all vets using the NVPS, all food producing vets using the NVPS. And we have 82%, I think it is, that are either engaging kind of currently with their software provider or waiting to come on board. So we have 105,000 or just under 105,000 prescriptions put through the NVPS to date. But so we're keeping an eye that's in relation to the products that are dispensed elsewhere.
Fantastic uptake. And I suppose like any new system, it takes time, doesn't it, for people to adapt and get used to the system and understand It is.
Now it's like day by day, we're seeing more vets start to come on board now and use the system.
Fantastic. Next question, again related to the system itself. So does the pharmacy or each individual pharmacist need to register? So great question.
Okay, so like I said, there's 2 different versions of the NVPS. There's the web app and there's the API. If you're using the web app, every individual pharmacist has to register because access is through an individual AGR account. You can't share an AGR account. There's no company AGR account. But for the API, it's just the pharmacy needs to register.
Right.
And the pharmacy also needs to be registered with us as well. So for the web app, so you can't just register if you're on your own, randomly decide to register and for the web app, because we need to know who you're working for and all that kind of thing. So
brilliant. Super. Yeah. Thank you, Darren. That's great. Actually, the next question is something I was going to ask you, Noreen, about as well. So, when will the comparable list for anti-parasitic vet meds be available? The question just alludes to the fact that you mentioned tramadol and Albex, but there are at least 4 other equivalent brands of albendazole for bovines.
Yeah, just I suppose with regard to the albendazoles, the other ones have selenium and cobalt in them, so they're not directly comparable with the one with the albendazoles and tramadol. So we have the endospecs and the kilogains and stuff. So that we were very, very strict when we made up the comparable listing. So that's possibly why that person feels that there's some missing off the albendazole list. Our comparable list obviously is done up, and it is fluid as to when drugs are withdrawn and new medicines come on the market. Rebecca might comment on when the plan is to share it, or.
Yeah, I know the comparables list has been shared currently just internally within the department. We should hopefully be able to share that list on a wider scale shortly. We are going to have it available just to demo the system as well, or to show the system, I suppose, properly from mid-August. So this is prior to the upregulation then on the 1st of September of antiparasitics.
Fantastic. It's great to have you're really it's a really progressive system. You've done so much already with it in terms of, the system and then itself, and then the, having you're alluding to the drug database, Noreen, and now the comparable is so fantastic. Thank you. Another question then, similar question, what pharmacy dispensing systems are integrated with NVPS? I don't know if that's something, you have.
No, it's not something, unfortunately, that
No problem. Yeah, no, that's no problem. So I imagine, as Darren's already alluded to, if somebody has a software query, as you said, to approach your software provider first, and then as a secondary to come to yourselves if there's a technical issue that needs support with. Yeah, super. Yeah, that's great. And then we've addressed the labeling. Okay, and this is thank you very much for all the questions. It's fantastic. So you can't. Oh yes. So a question around owing. So you can't owe medication if you don't have the full quantity. I think that's really, is that the case?
Yeah, it's the case. So we're trying to work out potentially a provision, but at the moment that is
the case at the minute. Brilliant. Yeah. Another question: if you're unable to identify other medicines that are prescribed on the same prescription, then how can we identify drug interactions? We have responsibility as pharmacists to check for interactions. And there's an example given here: Footvax versus Cydectin LA injection, Levamisole versus sheep dip versus sheep dip, excuse me, both potentially fatal interactions. Who is responsible?
Yeah, so that was an ask from the farming organisations that I suppose the different line items are not shared. The vet, obviously, when they're prescribing as well, will be looking at this and looking at obviously different interactions. And the comparables list is quite strict. As I said, it's nearly a match for match. So it should be something from the initial prescription the vet will have looked at.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then another comment, we're just talking about capacity of the system, the uptake. And then are human medicines now dispensed under the cascade? And what about unlicensed medicines? So another 2 great questions there on other aspects of dispensing.
Human medicines. We say that they come in under like Article 112, Article 113 of our 2019-6, which is essentially the cascade. Even though the term cascade is probably, we still use it, but it's not really modern parlance anymore. But everyone still uses it. So human medicines would be regarding unlicensed medicines. And that is, I presume you're talking about on the human side. I presume that the question is that unlicensed medicines on the human side. Look, what we say is we have full eyes on what is in the country veterinary medicinal wise. We don't have that luxury on the human side as to what is available through your different different schemes on the human side, but we will allow vets within reason to prescribe what is necessary for the animal once it is allowed in either A, a food producing animal, or if B, if the horse is signed out of the food chain. But as I say, we don't have eyes on what comes in on the human side as much. We tend to stick to what's on the HPRA. But I know that that's not always the case, and maybe Rebecca might just comment on it, on the
No,
unlicensed part of it.
yeah, I think this we just don't have oversight of it at the moment. It's I think that is an area that we just need to look at.
Yeah, that's super. It's great to know where things are at with it. And I say it's great to walk through from the legislation right through to the demonstration of how to use it. One question I had, if I could ask as well, I think it's fantastic. You, as I say, you've mentioned the comparable products, and I was just conscious at that point it was in the process of being dispensed. Is there on the app itself, is there the possibility of looking up the information before you go in to dispense the prescription, or is it only very much when you're actually in the dispensing step itself that you can access that information?
Yeah, it's when you're in the actual system itself that you can access it.
It's when you're in the system
Yeah.
itself. Okay, super. Yeah, and I'm just wondering. Oh, we have another one. I'll hold my question for a second. I'll come back to. So on a local level, many farmers are in their 70s and do not use smartphones. How can we aid compliance? And I know, Noreen, you've already spoken to this a little bit, but is there anything else, any other practical measures or aspects that you find that pharmacists can use in terms of, as the question outlines, dealing with people and farmers who would just be in that age group, who are not as maybe technological savvy as younger members might be?
Yeah, look, completely. And again, everyone is conscious of those. We've been told about those from the farming organizations, from the veterinary industry, who want to take care of their clients, and again from yourselves. And I suppose we just have to adapt a little bit, in that the vet will either have to write or print out and give the farmer a piece of paper that he can go then to yourselves with. And again, as a record of the dispense PDF, for those you may have to offer a printout of the record of the dispense PDF. We can't really think of any other way around it as such, to be honest. Now, obviously, they can use the email address or the mobile phone number of a family member. It doesn't have to be theirs. So maybe they have a family member who can help them with that. It doesn't have to be theirs, as long as there's some way of getting the information to them. But we are aware that some of them will require a physical piece of paper.
Sure, and I think it's great to have, as you say, have engaged with everybody and taken that on board and working to find those solutions in practice. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I just say, John, that the text message that gets sent out can be read on any text on any phone. It's not it's just a basic text message. It's just text. So you don't need a smartphone to get the text message. So if they do have a mobile phone and they don't use, like my father-in-law, who doesn't want a smartphone but has a mobile, he can still get the text message and the information on it. It just so it is operable for people with just a basic mobile phone.
Yeah, which is fantastic, and as you say, to make that point as well, that it's not just a smartphone. So great to have that information as well, and what we were saying as well, Noreen, about family member, or to make it as accessible as possible. So that's super. And then another question just come in on the system side, the operational side of things again. So any facility on the NVPS to amend minor errors, e.g. typographical error in entering a batch number, for example? Very good question. I don't know if you'd like to take that one.
I can take that. After the dispensing action is done, there actually isn't. But what we can do is we can offer that we would hold the corrective information, not on our system, but by contacting the help desk, the NVPS help desk. We can hold, the communication from themselves that there was an incorrect entry made. The same holds true if something. So if for some reason that you dispense something in error, again, we would advise that you contact the NVPS help desk so that we can start the process of actually cancelling that line item or cancelling that prescription. So no, once you click the dispense button, you can't amend it. Unfortunately, you'd have to contact us.
Great that that's there as a process, that it can be, as you say, captured and retained. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, brilliant. Another question: do pharmacies have to retain a physical copy of the dispensed prescription? This is current practice for human prescriptions, which are generated electronically. So are DAFM and PSI united in their approach, in this regard?
We are in discussions actually at the PSI at the moment, but I don't think that's been finalised as of yet. So hopefully you'll get word on that soon.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I was just going to ask you that actually for updates and for people maybe you want to find out a little bit more after listening to tonight, and in general, people who are using the system already, using the app. Is gov.ie /NVPS? Is that where people go to get all the updated information, and as things continue to evolve and develop?
Yeah, exactly. Everything is going to be pushed up onto the gov.ie /NVPS.
Brilliant.
But if anyone wants any individual help or anything, just contact the helpline either by phone or by email as well.
Yeah, fantastic. It's great. You've got so many options for contacting you, which is fantastic. I think like any system, as as we know from systems that look at human medicines, dispensing systems, we've all probably come through health mail with COVID and changes that have developed in that space. And I think it's always the case at the start that familiarization with the system is always one of the hurdles or the barriers for everybody using a new system. So I think it's just fantastic to see all the support you have, both in your website, your helpline, your contact information. We will upload the information onto our website from tomorrow so that people will have that information in a one-stop shop, if you like, of all both the slide sets as well, and that information where they can contact you. So I think that's fantastic. And I think a really important take-home message tonight is about that piece as well, about your software provider and the app, and sort of that point of distinction, and who to go to first if it's a software issue versus the technical side of the app itself. I think you've had a barrage of fantastic questions, and I'm delighted to see so many people asking questions. I think we have just one more coming in. I might just take it if that's okay. So will the prophylactic use of antiparasitic drugs effectively be terminated from September?
Yeah, when they become prescription only medication, the prophylactic, we are trying to work around the therapeutic treatment and the non-therapeutic treatment of animals with antiparasitics, and we will issue advice on that shortly. But sorry, is this frozen or?
No, you're okay.
No, sorry, yeah, no, it just looked like it was frozen on my screen. But yeah, no, that will prophylactic use in terms of the way the regulation is written, is it will cease, but we will issue guidance to allow prescribing for these medications.
And I imagine you're going to get, such valuable information from an antimicrobial stewardship perspective as well as time evolves.
Yeah.
So, I think just to echo some of the comments coming in the chat box, say, what an important initiative, so informative, and just a fantastic development to see in the area of veterinary prescribing and dispensing. So, I just want to thank all of you for giving of your time and expertise here this evening. So Rebecca, Darran and Noreen. And I'd just like, as a final reminder, just to say to people, a reminder to please complete the post-webinar evaluation form. We'd really appreciate it. And as a reminder, another fantastic opportunity to complete a CPD cycle for your own portfolio. And just a reminder that I'm delighted to say that we are taking a summer break for everybody, and that we'll be back in autumn of this year with our next webinar, and we will be in contact via our usual streams of social media and email with the details. So we won't give away the topic, we'll leave it as a cliffhanger. And I'd like to say thank you to our colleagues again in the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine for bringing this fantastic initiative to us tonight. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody who has attended as well and draw the webinar to a close. Take care and good night.